I'm Stacey Hoppus. Joining me today is Tim Ryan, Economic Development Specialist here in Wallingford. Tim, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks very much for having me.
You're welcome. So why don't we start with a little bit of an overview about the Economic Development Commission.
Very good.
And so what they do.
The commission is made up of 7 volunteers.
Okay.
All of those 7 volunteers live in Wallingford, work in Wallingford, and I stress the fact that they are volunteers. So these are people who live here, as the saying goes, live here, work here, play here. So then the commission's role is to take and collectively try to build a grand list for the town of Wallingford.
Okay.
Responsibly, and I can add to that if you like. So.
Right. And then, so their role in the community is just to build the grand list and keep it there.
Right. The grand list is the list of taxable property in the town.
Okay.
Wallingford has so many fantastic amenities, but they have to be paid for, and we all realize that that's done through generation of taxes.
Right.
So taxes, fees, et cetera. So businesses make up a very substantial portion of the grand list. Mm-hmm. We're very fortunate that it's less than residential housing, but nonetheless we have a very strong business base.
Right.
So the Economic Development Commission's focus is to make sure to maintain and grow that business base, mm-hmm. so that we continue to collect the taxes, create the jobs. There are things called economic multipliers that come every time a business comes to town and thrives in town. Not just the taxes they pay, it's not just the utilities, right. It's the jobs they provide, all the disposable income that comes from the jobs, et cetera. So that's what the Economic Development Commission's focus is.
And how often do they meet?
They meet monthly.
Okay.
And besides our monthly meetings, there's 3 subcommittees on the Economic Development Commission. One is the Planning and Zoning Liaison Committee.
Okay.
So any and all planning and zoning issues that may come up, or challenges, or anything that has to do with planning and zoning that has to do with the business,
right.
That we may want to get involved with to support a business. And sometimes we don't support the business. It's not,
right.
Life is never that pure.
Right.
But if a business needs some additional support through a planning and zoning process, we'll understand what their application is. Could be for an expansion. It could be to do anything that involves planning and zoning.
Right.
And then there's a marketing committee, and
okay.
the marketing committee's job is to promote and sell the Wallingford brand, if you will, okay. Within our borders, but well right. beyond our borders. And then there's a retention and incentives committee.
Okay.
So that committee focuses on trying to retain businesses, reviews and suggests any of the tax incentive programs that we may have.
Right.
So they would review and suggest. They would go to the mayor for support.
Okay.
If a tax incentive gets the mayor's support, then it goes to the council for final approval.
Yeah.
So the retention incentive committee manages all those types of retention activities.
Excellent. And then what does an economic development specialist do here in town?
Well, my job is to try to keep the businesses that are here happy,
yeah.
and continue to grow the business base. So and I work directly for the mayor, but I also work directly and report directly to the commission.
Okay.
So I'm considered the staff
okay.
of the commission. So yeah. I work very closely with businesses on a very regular basis. We have what we call a no poaching policy in Wallingford, which I think is a very good one. In essence, I don't call businesses in other communities and say, why don't you consider moving to Wallingford?
Right.
We just don't think that, economic development, first and foremost, it is about our zip code. Beyond that, it's more of a regional initiative.
Right.
Beyond that, it's a statewide initiative. So when the town is strong, doesn't necessarily mean the region is strong. Mm-hmm. And as we know, it doesn't necessarily mean that the state is strong.
Right.
So we certainly, we don't pick up the phone to call other businesses in Connecticut and say, come here.
Right.
However, if they reach out to us,
mm-hmm.
then I certainly engage in those conversations and, understand what the businesses are, what they do. Quite often they'll say, geez, can you help me find a location?
Right.
So I would work with the town planner to determine what the business is, what zone would best fit it,
right.
and go from there.
If there's space available for them.
Right. Right. Something, find space that may be on the market, but quite often it's a matter of knowing the town. I mean, I was raised here.
Okay.
I married my high school sweetheart. We met at Lyman Hall. Our kids are here. Our grandkids are here. So, I'd like to think I know the town pretty well.
Right.
I know its geography, and there's been a perfect example is the Tractor Supply store on Route 5.
Yeah.
When Tractor Supply had reached out and expressed an interest in this region, they wanted to be on Route 5, but there was no parcel on Route 5 large enough to accommodate them.
Okay.
So I engaged an adjoining property owner and said, there may be an opportunity for you if you'd like to consider, being part of that conversation.
Yeah.
And long story short, we have a Tractor Supply. So, that's the type of thing. I sometimes feel as if I'm a matchmaker.
Right.
I take and align businesses with property owners.
Yeah.
Quite often work as the business's liaison in the town hall, make that introduction to the town planner, who we work very closely with, and we're very fortunate that we have a very open-minded and very progressive town planner.
Yes.
And make the introductions to our public safety officials, et cetera.
Yeah. Nice. And then you guys also do welcome calls for new businesses.
Yes, Lynn Wolf works in economic development,
Okay.
and Lynn is the pleasant voice that people hear on the phone, on a monthly basis. She will take and call new businesses that come to town, and welcome them.
Yeah.
Thank them for coming to Wallingford. Confirm what business they're in. We put them on our website, which becomes a resource for other businesses to know who's come to town
Right.
as well. So, but we want to be able to say, hey, thanks for coming to Wallingford.
Right.
It's a great place. If we can ever be any help to you, let us know. We're here.
Right.
We want people to understand and realize realistically that government is approachable,
Right.
and we're approachable.
And building relationships.
Absolutely. It's all about relationships. The first time you have an issue, call. You know who to call. You don't have to
Right.
sit down and try to figure out who to call. Call economic development.
Right.
We often say, and we brand ourselves as the only market-driven department in town hall, which is very, very common in municipal governments.
Right.
That there's every department is regulated by virtue of a set of regulations, rules, regulations. Not that we're not,
Right.
but we are more market-driven and less operationally focused
Right.
than the other departments, and the other departments need to be that way.
Right. Right. And then, so you spoke about the website. If we go to the website, for the town website, you have economic brochures there and some videos. Why don't we talk a little bit about those?
Sure. So a couple of years ago, this is a product of the marketing committee, and Mark Gingras and Patricia Cimbala are two of our commissioners that serve as the chair and vice chair of the marketing committee.
Okay.
And we wanted to have something on the website and something that we could send out as part of our packages that we'll send out to prospective businesses and so forth. A way to introduce people to Wallingford other than just ink on paper, frankly, and brochure type materials.
Right.
So we did 2 videos, and one video is targeted as, it answers the question, why would I want to move my business to Wallingford?
Right.
And the entire video, they're 3 to 4 minutes long, they're short videos. And we kept them that length because we know people don't want to look at a documentary, they want to look at something and get tidbits, right?
Yeah.
So that answers that question. Why would you want to move your business to Wallingford? And we go through low electric rates, the dependability and reliability of our power, Wallingford's location and access to the highway system in the state of Connecticut. Very, very, strong selling point.
Yes.
We have access, within a 20-minute commute, we have access to over 52% of the entire working population in the state of Connecticut from Wallingford. So all those things are on that video.
Yeah.
The second video is, why would I want to move my family to this community?
Right.
And it's aimed at, you would think economic development doesn't really get involved with residential development very much,
Right.
if at all.
Yeah.
But this represents the workforce of companies that are going to come here. So we want to make sure that we're speaking to people who would like to come here as well. And we talk about the recreation department, we talk about our world-class library, we talk about our park system, et cetera, et cetera. So
Because it all ties in together.
it all ties in together.
Right.
That's right.
Very
That's
nice. And then what are some of the projects that you're actually working on right now?
There's one not too far from where we're sitting. We get involved with sometimes situations that are just not standard. I always say the easy ones go through, and the easy properties to develop have already been developed,
Right.
for the most part. So when we really need to engage is when projects have a little bit of a different twist to them. So we're involved with a project up on Northrop Road where the old Webster Bank check processing facility used to be.
Okay.
Many people probably don't drive by there, so they may not be familiar with it, but that is going to be a new a company called Radial.
Okay.
And Radial is bringing in 85 employees, and they're a manufacturing firm.
Okay.
Now, the reason that economic development got involved is because manufacturing is not an allowable use in that specific zone.
Okay.
But we dig and we research and we understand. I spent a half a day at Radial understanding their business and what they do there.
Right.
And is it a good fit? And if not at that location, can I find another location? Well, it turns out that Radial is going to be doing product assembly there, not product manufacturing. Although they're what they call their NAICS code, which is a designation, says that they're a manufacturer, they're really not going to be manufacturing there. So that's a project that took several months to make sure that we educated the respective departments in Town Hall.
Right.
And that project is happening as we speak. They'll be moving in by September.
Okay, great.
So that's something that doesn't happen if departments don't engage and we don't take the extra time and effort to really understand the business and understand it thoroughly.
It takes a lot of work.
It's a fair amount of work, but it's a labor of love. It's fun when you win. But you don't win them all. So,
Absolutely.
and there's a project that we worked on just a couple of months back. This not too far from here. It's in Barnes Park.
Yeah.
And this is a development, new building that was built on 10 acres of land.
Okay.
All the zoning requirements were in place. It had an outdoor storage component.
Okay.
But Barnes Park, many people may not realize it, but the elevation of Barnes Park is relatively high.
Okay.
So when they started stacking their outdoor supplies, the wind was blowing some of the supplies around, they couldn't stack as high as they needed to, and so it made their supply stack kind of unstable.
Right.
So they come back and say, well, we need to have more indoor storage, which was not compliant with zoning regulations.
Oh, wow.
So we engage, go back to zoning, and that's why I say we have a very open town planner. We have a very open planning and zoning commission, and there needs to be that harmonic balance between all the town departments, or frankly, nothing happens.
Right. Everybody needs to come together and make sure that things get done, and you can do what you need to do.
Right. And I mentioned earlier, growing the grand list responsibly, and I stress responsibly. There have been, a handful of companies that have approached us that, frankly, we said, you may be better off, continuing your search elsewhere.
Right.
Because there's a character to Wallingford, and there's certain things that we would welcome. When the industrial parks are active and busy, and most people in town don't even know it.
Right.
That's probably ideal. Right?
Yes.
Right. They're not disruptive in any way. There's not noises, smells, smoke, or what have you.
Right.
And we work very diligently to make sure we try to attract the companies that are good fits for us. But not every company is.
Right.
And from time to time, we have to remind people that, they may not be a good fit. So.
Right. And I know because I drive around, and unless you go down certain roads, you would never even realize that there's an industrial area. Right.
I credit the people who laid this town out, which certainly predates, me. But the way that the town is structured, with its retail corridor, residential components, industrial components, for the most part, there's a nice separation between the three, which is nice.
Right. Well, we have a few minutes left, and I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about Lower Center Street. So why don't we talk briefly about that quickly?
Sure. It's one of the questions that I'm asked most frequently.
Right.
Is what are we doing about the lower part of Center Street? And I'll say that I am, myself and a handful of people, I am downtown's biggest cheerleader. I think that having a town center is a sustainable competitive advantage that we really need to leverage. The top of the hill, Center and Main, is just doing lights out business. They're doing great. We have the new Center Street Brew Pub. We've got great restaurants. We're an attraction, and we draw people from many towns away. Right. The lower part of the hill is a little tired, and with transit-oriented development, new train platform, 17 trains a day, Judd Square, 200 new apartments. We're really hoping that some of the landlords in the lower part of the hill will be more open to considering, other options for their properties. But we, in any type of deal, time a deal comes together, you always say that the stars kind of have to align.
Right.
And the stars are aligned here because the state of Connecticut is very interested in seeing development around train stations, transit-oriented development areas. The town is very interested. We have tax incentives in place. We've structured town zoning regulations so that we can take and welcome development projects. But what makes downtown special is that they're made up of a lot of very small, unique properties, and they're all privately owned.
Right.
So, private owners have to be willing to do something. The town's not going to go in and tell them what they have to do.
Right. They have to be open to it.
Right.
Well, we've learned so much information today, and thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And hopefully we'll have you again.
I'd love to talk about what we're doing in Wallingford. It's a great town.
Thank you so much.
Very much. Thank you.
And again, I'm Stacey Hoppus, and I'll see you around town.